You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blaine of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
Well, welcome, audience, to another exciting episode of the Ground Transportation Podcast. And we are blessed to have the president of the NLA with us. And we're going to talk about kind of a retrospective or a debrief on the Vegas show. But then we're going to also talk about the importance on attending the Day on the Hill. So, Brett, I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, the show in Vegas was absolutely, the tone was terrific. Everybody was in a great mood. It was literally like drinking from a fire hose because there was so much activity on the show floor. But as NLA president, I've got to tell you that the presentation you gave as far as at the annual meeting was incredible. So give your perspective as you walked around. What did you feel about the show this year in Vegas?
I personally loved it. And I just want to give a shout out to the show committee.
Oh, God, yeah.
That put it together. And we partnered with CD and Chris Weiss and Eric and Jess and their team and, Kyle, Sarah, and our team. But, the show committee that we have is spectacular. They meet weekly. They take everything to heart, everything about the education. They do deep dives. They try to be very fair when it comes to, is this good for a small operator? Is this good for a big operator? But the tone was great. Everybody was encouraged. I think the industry is doing well right now. We're looking at hopefully not a recession, but we're looking at record business travel this coming year, which is what has been predicted by GBTA. But the show as a whole was great. I spoke to a lot of the vendors Tuesday night when they were packing up, and they said they did very well. People are trying to buy more technology now. They're trying to buy newer vehicles. And it was a home run. It was a home run.
Yeah.
And everyone enjoyed themselves. We had, at the NLA meeting, we had this PAC fundraiser that Robert and I did with the help of the rest of the board. And we raised more money than we ever have in, 3 years combined in 5 minutes.
You guys are amazing auctioneers, by the way.
Well, I give credit to the membership. The membership, they're all in. They get it. They see what we're doing. They see, congestion pricing was a huge issue for the last year or two.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going by the wayside right now.
Yep.
179, they were getting rid of the 179 tax.
Section 179 depreciation.
Depreciation, where you could write off up to $1 million a year. Now it's like 1.2 million a year. That is now permanent in the tax records, which it would go away every year. They'd have to bring it back. We're going to talk a little later about some things we're lobbying for. The fortunate thing is right now we don't have any huge thing hanging over our head like COVID just hit, or the TNCs just came in, illegally, or this or that. So we're in a good time now, but I just give all the credit to the great show, to our board and what they do and the time they put in. And we have 18 people on that board that just kick butt and they're great. And we have 17 committees. And they go hard, and we try to give back too. And we had a lot of scholarship winners again. We keep giving out scholarships to the shows, and it's very thought out and thorough. And I'm really proud to just be part of it.
So, without mentioning any names, I had a huge client come in that has never been in the industry before. And he made an acquisition in the space. And I said, look, you've got to come to the conference. Okay. So this is a gentleman that has literally been in many, many, many different industries in his career. And his comment to me after going to the show, we did a debrief, was, you guys are incredibly professional. The team that runs the NLA or runs the show to me, it rivals an industry 100 times your size. And he did, I will tell you, he flat out said when he met you that he got a great feeling about the industry, and why the industry is as strong as it is because there's leadership in the industry like you. So I wanted you to know that. But he was extremely impressed with the show floor and the amount of vendors and the amount of activity and the energy level. This is someone who never stepped into one of our conferences before. And his only reference to this industry, I joke with him all the time, is the only thing you know about this industry is sitting in the back seat of the car. So, when you think about how far this industry has come, right? He sat in on the state of the industry, or the annual NLA meeting. They sat in on a couple of education sessions, and they were blown away.
Well, like I said before, the credit goes to the committee that is putting this on. And there's so many brilliant people that they're not even on the board, but they're on that committee.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away because I try to sit in on all of their calls, even though I miss them, but they're weekly. I learn stuff every day just listening to them. If you're a sponge in this industry, you're going to do well. It doesn't matter how long you've been in it. It doesn't matter if you're like even at a first timers event.
Yep.
You're going to learn something, or you're going to meet someone that's going to help you. I met someone at the show there, and the person had a badge that said Telluride. Nobody knows about Telluride. I go there every year. It's in Colorado. And when I was in Telluride, I actually met him, and we boarded for a little bit. And boy, is he a good boarder.
No kidding.
He's about 30 years younger than me, but he's just getting in the industry, and we were just chatting and talking shop the whole time. But this is what happens in our industry. It's very different. I thought when I first got into this, it's cutthroat. The guy next to me, let's take his legs out. Let's, grab all his clients.
It's because you come from the taxi business. Let's just be straight about that.
But it's a wonderful industry where people, I don't need to own metal all over the world. I just need to know the right people all over the world.
No question about it.
And not only do you need to know them all over the world, you need to know them in your market.
Yep.
Because we got so much smarter during COVID. We thought we were smart pre-COVID. And then we realized we carry too much metal.
Yep.
We have too much insurance. We have too much this. And just have the right partnerships.
Look, and the opposite side of the coin is when you're an ostrich and you say, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't need to go to those shows. And that's literally the imitation of many of the people I talk to whose businesses are not successful. Oh, I've been in this for 30 years. I haven't been to a show in 10 years. That's why you're not profitable. That's why your mindset is back in the Stone Age. That somebody said to me the other day, there's two types of people in this industry. There's people that understand the ecosystem and are part of the ecosystem. And then there's the knuckle dragger Neanderthals that think they know everything. And I said that. He didn't say that. So the reality is these shows are not a cost. They're an investment, right? To me, they're an investment. If you can't walk away with a golden nugget from one of these conferences, you're there, you're sitting at the bar. If you can't create a relationship, okay, like that, I guarantee you that guy at Telluride with you felt like he was boarding with a celebrity, because I'm dealing with a guy that's got one of the most successful guys in the industry, and he's showing me some attention. But if that's what I don't understand about this industry. It seems to be like the two types of people. I'm not going to belong to my state associations. I'm not going to participate there, and I'm not going to participate in the national association. I'm not going to go to the conferences because I know everything. And from where I sit, they all have the same things in common. They haven't grown their businesses at all in the past 10 years. Their financial metrics are worse today than pre-COVID, because what got us through COVID was the camaraderie of, remember those damn Zoom calls of all of us saying, we need to roll up our sleeves and get through this together. The 40% that didn't make it through, those were the ostriches. But we still have ostriches in the industry that don't go to these conferences and don't participate. And it was interesting to me about that, the comment of the guy that never was in the industry before. So to me, it renewed why the ecosystem, participating in the ecosystem that is the NLA, that is the state associations, that is the national conferences, and the other events is absolutely critical. But I got to tell you, and this is not kissing up, great presidency. I mean, the
Well,
great tone.
thank you. You're trying to make me blush here.
Yep. Well, maybe you have
But
quite we won't talk about the tan.
I wanted to make the annual meeting a little fun.
It was.
So I wasn't sure if I would bomb, which fortunately I didn't.
Nope.
But it's everybody was really engaged, and it just shows how much the people in the industry care about it. And I'm shocked that you said 40% of the companies are gone. I thought it was more like 20 or 25%.
Oh no, it's 40%. When we did the financial state of the industry reports, the D&B numbers were incredible. Yeah. And the reality is 16% of the companies that are below $1 million, 16% fail every single year. So what you get is, if you come into the business, you don't 16% a year, so 80% fail within 5 years. And my feeling on that is because you don't educate yourself, and you don't create those relationships where, if the vehicle is sitting idle, right? Because you're an ostrich. Okay. You don't have a guy like Brett that's going to send you business, or you have not networked at an industry event. And I don't know too many industries that have the ecosystem that is dependent, that we are all dependent on the work that we do to participate in the ecosystem. And the ones that don't seem to be doing well.
Well, Ken, it's even learning about the ecosystem. If you're $1 million company just getting started, a lot of people don't know that you should network with outside. You're driving back and forth to the airport every day, all the time, and you don't realize that, hey, maybe when the guy lands in New York or Miami or LA, we can help him there. Your margins are almost as good or better on the farm out work than your work, where you have to, pay W-2 employees and workman's comp and all of it, your insurance and all that. It's quite an industry that there's always something to learn. And I am not someone that is the best thing I think I know about myself is what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I don't know our systems well. I don't know technology well, but my business partner does.
That's why you've got Kevin Cronin.
Yes, and Kevin's great. And when it comes to vehicles, Kevin in his suit jumps under them and starts looking at things. And when it comes to our tech, we just added something recently that is like a bot on our website.
Is that
To
the quote
me,
bot?
it was very
Is that
cool.
who you're using?
I think it's amazing. And we're probably one of the last companies that had remote employees. We're probably one of the last companies that does stuff overseas. But it's very mainstream now for that to happen. And there's a lot of companies now that not only are their call centers overseas, they're dispatch, they're billing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on in the industry that if you don't go to these shows, you don't know about it.
No.
And I would like to shout out one thing. There is someone that is building a couple 20 groups now. Mm-hmm. And if they want the name, I'm not going to say it on the podcast, but they can reach out to me and I'd be happy to send them the information. And it's just something, if you're not part of a local association or you're not part of different committees that help the National Association, you should join a 20 group. You will have friends around the country. You will have relationships.
You can mention his name. That's the kid that is the brother of the kid that owns. They're all kids to me.
In San Diego.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's a Men in Black is?
Yeah, Men in Black.
All right.
Yeah,
he's the brother. He's his brother.
Yep. So the guys from Men in Black have this new business, and I was highly encouraging him to do it. And kudos
Smart
to them.
guy.
It's something that needs to be done. There used to be many, many more 20 groups,
Right.
with Tom Mazza
Right.
and other
Sure.
people and Arthur and
Yep.
people that did that. I know Becky has some stuff now, but it's, if you're not part of one, you should be part of one. It gives you this comfort zone where you can bounce things off of, people that are normally your size companies and have the same thought process as you, but you're not alone, and you learn that.
Well, and that's what gets me. I can't keep going back to it. The most backwards people I deal with that come to me to please help me sell my business. My accountant says it's worth X. They're the ones that literally don't participate with anyone else.
Yep.
Okay. The 20 groups, because when I started I had Tom Mazza as a consultant from the day I started my company in Tampa. And he was an investment. He wasn't an expense. And him bringing me into the 20 group was one of the best learning experiences I had, because now I had brothers that I could call or email and say, listen, I'm running into this issue. The myopic thought process of some operators makes them victims of their own circumstances. I never get over it. It's difficult as an entrepreneur to take advice anyway, right? And I kind of offset my pigheadedness by reading, and I'm reading some great, unbelievable books that will help my customers. But some entrepreneurs, the feeling that you have to be omnipotent and know everything is self-defeating. What you just said, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. Well, it led you to one of the best yin and yang partnerships in the industry, you and Kevin. I don't know two people who could be more different, right? But other than your hairstyles, but the two of you are a perfect fit. But if you don't have people in a 20 group that you don't talk to them, and you don't go to the state associations, and you view all of those people as your competitors, and you don't go to the NLA because you view it as an expense and a club, I don't know how you succeed in this business. I honestly think it cuts your chances of success in half.
I was laughing though when you mentioned that if you go to a show and all you do is sit at a bar and don't go to the educational sessions, at our shows, if you just sit at the bar, you're going to have some good networking there.
Good point.
It's
Good point. Good point.
you're still gonna walk out of there with some really good nuggets.
Good point. That's
It's
a good point.
it's a great industry, and the people are great. And you work with we always talk about this, and I think I can say it on your podcast, but it's really the no rule.
Yep.
So if you find good people, work with them, and if they're just too tough to work with,
Don't.
there's no one else that you can work with.
Don't. That's the beauty, right? That's the beauty. If you find someone you say, listen, I need help in Kansas City, or I need help in Indianapolis, and you call somebody like, I don't do farm out work. I don't do farm end work. There's 5 people that will, right?
Well, it's not even that, Ken. It's when you have an issue.
Yep.
Everything's great when everything's perfect.
Sure.
But when there's an issue, can I talk to that owner or can I talk to that manager? Get this squared away right away. Right away.
Yep.
Figure out the billing piece of it, work together and just move forward in a professional way. And that's how you keep your clients happy. And when you have people that they're so demanding on one side that one tiny thing, they're like, we're not paying, we're not this, we're not that.
Yeah.
You can't do that to the people that you work with, and you have to be reasonable.
Yep. And there has to be the only way to me that you develop a trust factor. You don't develop a trust factor finding an affiliate on Facebook saying, hey, I need help in in Dallas, Texas tomorrow morning at 5:00. Who do we have? 5 a.m. Who do we have? To me, the trust level is look them in the eye and say, listen, this is what I've got going on. Here's my cell number. Can I have yours? That trust factor is irreplaceable. And you do get that by participating in the industry.
It's an echo of what you said on the first episode you came on with us. And I don't know if you remember saying it, but when we were talking about this same topic on the very first episode you did with us, you said the big thing is don't screw it up. It's not about rates. It's not about getting the best deal. I'm worried about who's going to be the best to work with, who's going to not to screw the trip up. And it's so great now to kind of see that echoed. And for those that haven't listened to that episode, they really should go back and listen to it. But you've echoed that, and you've echoed the mentorship. They're the two big keys that seem to be part of your success.
Well, people help me along the way. We've made plenty of mistakes, but you have certain people are very generous with their time. They're very generous in helping you out. And the nice thing too, when you're in like a 20 group, is they don't really feel that you're their competition locally either.
Right.
So, but they still have the same insurance problems. They still have the same vehicle maintenance problems. They still
Driver
have
issues.
all of these driver issues. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a good way to get rolling in the industry, and I highly recommend it.
No question about it, because you're not alone. If you have to bear the burden of being a business owner to begin with, it absolutely, which is stressful. I mean, I don't know too many business owners who are not 3x the stress of an employee of some company. So if you bear that burden alone, I think you're shorting yourself. You're limiting your success by doing that.
Yeah, part of the presentation that I did at the NLA meeting, there were a couple little videos, but one of them was of Dana White, and I'm not going to quote him perfectly, or I'll be
Verbatim,
swearing
right.
a lot. But Dana White was saying in this clip, it was a 10-second clip, and he just said, everyone comes to him and they say, I want to make my own hours, so I'm going to work for myself. And he's like, you don't get effing Christmas off, you don't get effing Easter off, and everyone's trying to F you.
Right.
And
Yep.
and it resonates with our industry because we're 24/7. We never close.
Nope.
We're
it's true.
all in all the time.
Oh.
And it is a crazy industry in that respect. But you need to have good partnerships. You need to have good people at work.
Right. And so to me, 20 groups are a force multiplier. And going to the shows and the conferences and leaving with people that you bond with, those are a force multiplier, because it's pretty freaking lonely being a business owner if you don't have people where you can say, listen, are you having the same issue? So let's segue into what I think is tremendous value and tremendously important in the space, is the NLA's Day on the Hill. So give us an idea. It's coming up. Give us an idea of what happens on the Day of the Hill and why you think operators should go. And now basically there is no cost to participate. Full disclosure, Driving Transactions is a sponsor and the podcast is a sponsor. But give us an idea of why Day in the Hill is important for an operator.
Well, first of all, it exposes you to the entire NLA board. It exposes you to some of the biggest operators in the industry. And it is a very small group of people compared to what we're usually with, almost 2,000 at the fall show, 2,500 at the show that we just had this past winter in Vegas. And even the retreats have a couple hundred people. This has about 60, 70, well, recently, maybe even close to 75, 80 people. And everybody is encouraged to meet each other, talk. You have some time. It's not like you're going from one thing to another to another. We all sit in the same room on Monday and we go through different issues that we're going to be speaking of. We try to educate people on that. We also bring in Cornerstone, which is our lobby firm in DC, which is one of the best in the country. And they will do some counterpoints to different issues. And we talk about the issues. And years ago, when I started running the legislative committee, I would meet with Louis Perry, who's from Cornerstone, and say, Louis, please dummy it down for me. I used to go to these things. We would get a book this thick about this law that we're going to try to go in and talk to our representatives and senators and say, we don't want that. This passage of everything is broken down into like a paragraph or two. this is what we don't like about 179. We don't want this to go away because we want this depreciation on a yearly basis. This helps all of the companies in our industry. And it is made in a simple form. So the following day, we go to meetings, and you go to meetings for the state where you live. So there are 2 senators in every state that you live, and a representative of where you live and where your business is. So fortunately for me, we have a business in Maine and we have a business in Boston. We have our offices there. So I get to go to 2 states. So that's about 4 senators and 3 or 4 different reps. And it's amazing walking through the halls of Congress and seeing, wow, this is really how stuff works here. It's whatever we do that day, it's not going to happen that night. We just have to continue to go year after year after year so they know that we're around. There was an accident a few years ago in New York, and one of the aides to one of the senators said, hey, why don't we call those people from the NLA about this that were in the office last year? And they did, and we helped craft the new laws about this type of stretch limousine. They wanted to have CDL drivers on everything from SUVs up after this accident from an operator that was actually operating illegally and not part of the NLA or anything like that. But you can't make a friend when you need a friend in DC. Yep. You have to do it year after year after year. And we've had some very, very good people that are part of the NLA that know the DC layout well, especially with Cornerstone helping us. And every year we have a fundraiser for a Democrat one year, a Republican the next year. And we just want to show that the NLA is a relevant industry, that chauffeured transportation is a relevant industry, that not only has us that are there lobbying, we have hundreds of employees that vote. They have spouses, they have significant others, and we have mechanics and drivers and, dispatchers. And one person going there that has a 50-car fleet might really represent 500 voters. They have clients, they have vendors that we support. So there is this whole infrastructure of people, and a lot of the senators and representatives realize that, and they give us some good time. And a lot of times you don't get to see the senator or the rep, that you meet with their staffers, who in most cases are more up to date on everything going on in their office than the senator themselves. But occasionally you go in and you are there with the senators and the reps. And we've had some great experiences. A couple of years ago, we did a lunch and a fundraiser for Representative Gottheimer from New Jersey. He led the charge for the last 2 years against congestion pricing. He couldn't have been a better friend to us. But we were already talking with him before congestion pricing.
Now, think about that example, okay? Think about that example. So if you don't have the day of the Hill, the industry has absolutely no visibility to any of the legislators. What happens when they decide they want to implement the congestion pricing? You're not going to have time to create those relationships. That's the perfect example of the benefit of having a legislative committee, the PAC fund, the lobbyist, and the day on the Hill. No question about it.
Well,
that's a
and
real example.
I think it goes a little further than that, because we've talked about the 50-car company, we've talked about the larger company, but one of the big things that happens in business is if you get to that point where you get stuck in that smaller mindset, you get stuck in that smaller business.
Yep.
So kind of to Brett's example earlier, where he was kind of mentoring that person in Telluride, this is that opportunity to start developing those friends, to understand kind of what what they look at when the blinders come off. If you're just getting in business, you've got 2-3 cars, you're worried about, how am I getting my guys where they need to go? How am I getting them trained? How am I getting things done? How am I not making mistakes? But now you can start to expand that vision and see those things. And the other side of it is, one of the things that happens a lot is we get in this mindset of, oh, well, I'm too busy. Someone will represent, someone will be there, someone will voice that, someone will put that fire over there out.
Yeah.
And I think a key thing here, and Brett's already alluded to it several times, if you don't go be the voice, if you don't go represent, if you're not there doing that, there's, one person going in and talking to them has some pull to it. You get 2, 3, 4 people. Now they start seeing it as, we have this group in this area. We're representing these constituents. They're putting faces to the names, faces to the industry. And you start to open yourself up. You start to open that growth. So I think, Brett, if you can talk for a second, what does that look like if you're that smaller operator? Obviously, it's a free event. But if I'm a smaller operator outside of the networking, if I'm trying to kind of see further down the road, what is that opportunity?
Well, it's funny because when you actually do reach the senators and the reps, they want to hear more from the smaller operator. These are the people, they might look at someone that's a 20 car and up operator and go, oh, that guy has a medium-sized company.
Yeah.
He might be someone that he's fine. But the majority of our association is under 20 vehicles, under 10 vehicles. And it's amazing when you see the reps and the senators talk to those people, because they really want to know what's ailing you. How can we help you? Is this going to help you being able to depreciate this asset? Is this going to help you? Is this going to hurt you if there's congestion pricing? Is this going to hurt you if there's accelerated depreciation? And also, one of the biggest things we're going to be talking about is insurance this year with them, and tort reform.
You beat me to it. It's on everybody's lips right now.
Oh my God.
So that
Incredible.
is something. And Ken, who does all of these transactions with driving transactions, that alone is putting people out of business.
It's the number one reason. Now it's the number one reason why people are getting out. I had an operator, it's $1.5 million operator, been in business for 20 years, who this week called and said, I cannot make my deposit for the end of March. I cannot pay my insurance deposit. And I don't have the money, which is an underlying issue, right? We get profitability problems, but he has no time to make it up. And he's taken out a home equity line in order to pay his deposit.
Yeah.
It went up 38% in 1 year. 38%.
And that's probably with no accidents.
No, again, he claims his loss runs are good. It blindsided him. He was one of the, I would say he would be an ostrich that doesn't participate on the state associations. What are you doing about it on the local level? And he just approached it like it was, my insurance is coming due, whatever. And it's going to put him out of business unless he finds the money. And he's got to tap into his home equity to pay the deposit now. Because that's the other thing that happened is insurance said, we're not going to do financing. You have to put at least this much down, and then you're going to an outside financing contract, which is 18 to 20% interest. So think about what you just said. To participate, you go into a legislator and say, look, if we don't do tort reform, I'm out of business. I can't keep my house. I can't pay my income to keep my house. It's a big deal. So,
well, and the other thing is, I think DC, the people that represent us in DC, realize that 60% of everybody works for small business companies or something like that.
It's under $1 million, 60%, a little higher.
So that is a huge part of the constituency. And never mind who is part of like NELA or local associations, there's 100% or 500% more people that are in your industry and they're just not even part of anything.
Yeah.
So, but they understand, our issues. And another thing that we're going to be discussing once again is curb space, which is very
It's a huge deal,
especially
at the
airport.
airports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Airport curb space, because of the federal money that is given to every airport. We want to make sure that we have a voice in that, and we don't get, sent out to remote lots or things like that.
Well, think about it. Uber's lobbying is probably, 1,000x what we have as an industry.
Yeah,
But
you could say 1,000,000x probably.
a million by the
or
right,
1,000, yeah.
right. It's like a huge line item on their P&L from when I read the analyst reports. But at the end of the day, when you walk into a senator or rep's office and you say, if I don't have a place at the table, if I don't have a place at the curb, I'm not going to be attractive to clients.
But it's so much deeper than that, though, because if you think about it and you really go through it, our clientele are the businessmen, the celebrities, the musicians. When we're dealing with private airports, we're pulling right up to the aircraft. But why is it when I take the highest form of luxury transportation on a commercial flight, I've got to walk the furthest and be inconvenienced the most to use that? The curb space, right? It should be, hey, the Uber lot's over there. You're riding Uber, you're riding the cheap stuff, you're over there. But why is this business class, first class passenger having to go the furthest, airport after airport? I mean, it's one of those things that almost
It's not always
undermines
the
what we
case
do.
in every airport. In some airports, well, one of the things that I feel the airlines understand very well is the first 20 seats on the plane is where all their profit comes from.
Without
They're not making
Absolutely.
profit charging someone a ticket $200 to and from LA from Boston. They're making it on the guy in first class that's paying $2,000.
70% of airline profitability is from the corporate traveler in business class traveler or first class. That's 70% of their operating profit.
You know what? I knew Ken would have that number too. I knew Ken would have that number. I sort of put the T up there. I knew he'd have all these numbers.
It's in the financial state of the industry report that's coming out later in the year. Okay. Data is my life. Sorry.
No,
not dating. Data is my life. I wish dating was my life.
He's working on that one too.
Yes.
No, I think the big thing here, and I think the big takeaway for everyone is, if you plan to be on this business for more than 5 minutes, if you plan to be in this industry for more than 5 minutes, these are all things that, even if it's not your immediate concern now, it's going to be. And I love that you brought up the quote earlier, Brett, 'cause it's one of my all-time favorites. And the time to make a friend is not when you need that friend.
Right.
The time to start building those relationships is not when you're drowning and you need them to come get you.
Right.
It's when you have those people that are already looking out for you. You brought up that accident in New York. We've got an illegal operator. We've got someone who's doing everything wrong. And if we didn't have that opportunity, if we didn't have that relationship to be able to come in and say, no, that's not one of ours. They broke every rule. If you would have put those laws in place, they wouldn't have followed them anyway.
Yeah.
So there's no point in doing that. That really speaks volumes into what Day in the Hill is really about, because with Day on the Hill, you're doing exactly what we teach in PAX. And that's not driving directly in front of your vehicle. It's looking down the road at what's coming ahead. It's being ready for what you're going to reach before you reach it, instead of trying to be reactive when you get there.
And if this business, if this is just a dodge or a gig to you, or, it's not your life, it's not a way for you to create personal income, personal wealth, don't go. But if you've got your personal wealth tied up in this industry, you have to get serious about participating across the board in the industry, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. We think the disruption is over. To me, when disruption starts in an industry, it never stops, right? So Uber, as we talked about before, Uber is trying to make headway into the corporate space. We have autonomous regulations coming up in the Fed. The Department of Transportation. I mean, that there's a big push to have autonomous regulation at the federal level, and it's been openly said, so that it's not state by state, death by 1,000 stabs. They want to push that in. We have to have a seat at the table. We at least have to be prepared for it. We have to be a voice as far as the state is concerned, the legislators are concerned. because there's an employment component there, right? When autonomous comes in, those people have to find other jobs. And again, at the airports, we don't just serve the celebrity class or the corporate class. I know a lot of retirees or wealthy travelers, right, that are walking with a cane or they have a pacemaker. They don't want to get into an Uber because, they want to use a private service. We have to have a seat at that table. So if you've got any amount of your wealth tied up in this industry, day on the hill to me, you should be a participant, and just the one-on-one conversations you can have and the networking and the people that you're going to meet are going to be critically important because you never know when you're going to need them.
Right.
Well, it's funny because there are some people that I met at Day on the Hill in the last few years that were scholarship winners to Day on the Hill. We even have scholarships for that, and you should apply now if you've never been. These people might have been 1, 2 car operators, and in the course of the last 2, 3 years, I've seen them grown into 10, 20 car operators just because they had a kind of networking
Yeah.
from Day on the Hill, really. And then you see them at the shows and other things like that where they put themselves out there. It's not easy putting yourself out there.
No.
It's hard. Even if you're gregarious or if you're shy, it's hard to do it because you're uncomfortable. But we try to make it so everybody learns and meets each other that is on Day on the Hill. So it's very different than just sitting at one table. I want the guy from New Mexico to meet the person from New Jersey. I want everyone to meet each other. And that's been happening over the last few years, and it's been great. There was a camaraderie there that I think I feel every time that I go to the shows and I see the people that are regulars a Day on the Hill. I love seeing them.
Well, look, I will speak to one thing. There, some people, operators, have said to me, "Well, it's an exclusive club." I have never found a more inclusive group of people that's led by an association than the NLA and the livery space. All right, it is the most inclusive, the most welcoming, and to me, the Day on the Hill is a big piece of it because there's no cost to it other than getting for travel. And it's a great learning experience to learn the process and get to meet the people. This industry is anything but exclusive, a club. To me, it's a great inclusive industry if you take advantage of it.
Yeah, there are people that might walk around like they don't include you.
Right,
But that's their problem.
right,
But
right.
I think the other side of that is that a lot of it, and it doesn't matter if you're an extrovert, it doesn't matter if you're an introvert, it doesn't matter if you're, uncomfortable. A lot of this is being there. A lot of this is, even if you're the most introverted person, you don't like talking to people, you don't like crowds, you know that this is an intimate event. You know that there's not a lot of people there. You know that the people there are trying to look further ahead. They're trying to build connections now. So even just being there, you go to your first event, you might not network a lot. You might be finding your comfort zone, but you have to keep stepping into that uncomfortable area for yourself. And you have to keep being there, kind of like you talked about, Brett. You had this person that was there on a scholarship. So they were lucky enough to be able to have some of that expense carried for them. And then once they were in that zone, once they started that networking, they were able to do it again and again and again. And so let me ask you, if we've got a listener that has never been to Day on the Hill, they're looking at the calendar,
Yeah, what do they do?
Well, and more so, you've got 2 shows, you've got a retreat, you've got Day on the Hill. If they're trying to figure out where do they jump in, what do they do? Maybe they can only afford to do one. Day on the Hill is right around the corner. What would you tell that person about Day on the Hill?
I would say it's amazing because it also makes you proud to be an American. It's walking around Congress and what's going on. And occasionally you can walk into some sessions that you can see. It's unbelievable that we have this country and it operates the way it does. It's not speedy. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's really amazing and you feel great about doing it. you also know that you're helping the industry. And it's really a way for you to be a leader in the industry for your state, nationally. And everyone at Day on the Hill recognizes, wow, this person wants to take a leadership role, even though they're a one-car company or a two-car company. They want to help the industry. People who want to help the industry, I want to help.
Yep.
Everybody there on the board, everybody there. When we see someone come in that we don't know, everyone greets them. We have this scholarship, limo.org. Go to limo.org and look up how you can apply for a scholarship to this if you've never been. And even if you don't get it, it's just a hotel room and you travel there. And there are a lot of people that are just within a few hours drive of DC also. So, it's just gas at that point. But it's amazing. And I just feel from the last 6-7 years that there is this really nice camaraderie coming out of Day on the Hill that just carries over the rest of the year for everyone that attends.
So go to limo.org. Monday give us the rundown of the events. It starts April 28th.
So what happens Monday is we get together and there are certain sessions in the morning that, or maybe it starts around noon. And there are sessions where we start discussing what we're going to talk about. We also have Cornerstone come in and give us like a counterpoint. Last year, it was all about the election. And if the Democrats win or if the Republicans win, this is what we can look for. We've been lobbying for the last few years, no tax on tips. Most likely that's going to happen. Do you understand? If people understood what that means to our drivers,
Incredible.
It would be like you're giving your driver a 10 to 15% increase in take-home pay without giving your driver a 10 to 15% increase that's costing you as the owner.
Without going up on your prices. Without going up on your prices.
Without going up on your prices, without doing
Yep.
anything. And the other thing that's on the table that we've pushed is no tax on overtime.
Yep.
A lot of our drivers, our busy season, they're not just working 40 hours, they're working over that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Easily.
so these are the kind of things that they will pay off 1,000,000 times over for everyone in the industry. And it also educates you on a lot of things that you probably have no idea about. You might walk into your first show or your first Day on the Hill and be like, really don't know what's going on. You never go to something all by yourself unless you're very seasoned.
No.
Someone from Cornerstone will walk in with you. You will have a little packet that you hand the people there, whether the senator's there or whether it's the aides. All of your meetings are set up for you. You have a schedule. That's day 2. You hit the road in the morning. You're running in and out of your meetings. You're pitching the 3 or 4 things that we want to talk about. There's certain states this year, like California. There's a couple of things that we're going to have them talk about that the majority of the other states are not going to talk about, with their local legislators. But these are, and that's just from GCLA working with NLA and their members saying, hey, we have this thing happening here that we really want to bring up. And it's like, great, we might even put that at the top of your list when you go in. But it's just really a California thing at this second. So I think it's about engines and
EPA issue.
Yeah, the California Air Resources Board is,
So, but these are the kind of things that we're able to do. And Cornerstone, who is our lobbyist there are certain states we might say, oh, in this state, you go in and you talk about X first and then talk about Y and Z. Because sometimes you go in and you start talking about a topic and you get carried away. It's like, geez, sometimes you only have a 15-minute meeting.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, I got to get to these other 2 things. So you do it quickly. But then there's follow-up. Cornerstone follows up. We leave them a packet with all of our information. Then we follow up with thank yous. And, do you remember us for this? So there's this whole process that goes on that is why it's very important for us to have money to pay our lobbyists.
Right.
And if there are things going on in certain states, we also have something that we can send out a letter to our industry that you really just hit click, and it goes from Brett Barenholtz to my local senators and whatever, complaining about this issue or that issue. So the legislative team has done an incredible job.
Yep.
And I just want to, in case we run out of time, I just want to shout out to everybody that threw money into the PAC fund, whether you did it publicly or you did it with the QR code. In 5 minutes, that was an amazing thing. And it's all because our members, they're all in on protecting our industry and doing the best that we can to help ourselves and help everybody around us. So thank you to everybody that gave to PAC.
Well, and I think along those lines, we're talking down the hill, we're talking politics, we're talking lobbyists. Talk to us a little bit about the PAC. For those that are listening that don't know what a PAC is, how it works, the big thing that's always stuck out for me is it's personal money, right? So it's you giving because we can't give as a business. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is, what a PAC is, what it does?
Yes. What it allows us to do is, if there is a breakfast or a dinner or a lunch meeting with a certain senator, we can write a check from the NLA for $1,000 and have someone rep us and go and be there and maybe get a few minutes time face to face. Or sometimes we don't even have someone there, or we have our lobbyists there.
Right.
So it's important that they see when we call them about an issue and say, hey, can you help us with congestion pricing? I'm not saying they do this, but there's a good chance they look down their list and go, how many people are part of this NLA thing that helped me out? Why are they calling me now?
That's the way it works.
When you have to have a friend before you need them.
Yep.
If something happens today and you're like, oh, let me call my rep. And they're like, this guy's never talked to me before. He's never supported me. No one in his industry. I can't meet with him. And, their time is very valuable and they're booked out all day. If they know, whoa, this is someone that gives to us every year. This is someone that helps me. Yeah, have them come in. Let's hear their concerns. I hate when people say it's pay to play, because it is, but it isn't. It's about having relationships.
It's deeper than
in
that.
Congress, and we have to have them to have a seat at the table and to have people that want to listen to you. Because the second something happens where they say, well, you know what, no more depreciation, we're going to be like, well, what are you talking about? All we do is buy vehicles.
Yep.
And who can we talk to? Well, right now we can talk to about 100 people.
Yeah.
Well, and when I was really involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Kansas City, it was very special because the big thing there is, when I was working with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Kansas City, they actually spawned the National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things that I learned very early on is, even though it's not pay to play, you have to pay to get in the door. And I've always looked at it that way, that the goal is not pay to play, but you have got to be willing to put down the money, to put down the time,
because you're
put down the
serious.
energy.
It's just serious.
And not only serious, you have to be there to build the relationship.
Yeah.
We've probably driven it home 10 times by now. This is one of the very few events where you're going to get all this networking, you're going to be able to be involved, and there's no direct cost to go to the event.
Yeah.
And so what that means is you're still putting forth the time to get there. You're still putting forth the cost to get there.
You're losing 2 days of your time.
You're losing 2 days of your time, but you really have to look at it as, I'm investing 2 days of my time. And with the PAC, the Political Action Committee, the other question you should be asking yourself is, if my company's in a place where I can afford to take what I would have paid to be involved and put that into the PAC to support it, that's what helps us get in that door to be able to start building these relationships, to be able to be there. Because like I said, it's not pay to play, but you have to make all these investments to get there.
And you have to make the connection between the jobs and the money.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's Uber's at the table all alone, right? With their lobbyists, et cetera. But when you're putting a face on the ramifications of what the legislators are working on, it's critically important.
Well, and remember, Brett, I'm going to harken back to what you said just a second ago. Let's get real. That Uber rep might be in that office every day for that senator, but that doesn't represent the little guy that's from the same hometown your senator is, that maybe he grew up down the street or maybe he grew up 2 towns over. And when you're able to share, hey, this is really going to hurt us back home. Now it's personal, right? Now he's not there to help these rideshare companies, these big, huge companies, but they're the ones with the budgets to be in front of them all the time.
Yep.
So it's so important for you to actually represent and be a part of that. That was, for me, the biggest lesson for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in working with our local politicians here. And we do trips to Topeka and we do Super Involved, because if they're not there you have to be there to tell your story.
Otherwise, you don't exist.
Well, not only that, someone will tell their version of your story for you.
Right.
And they may be telling that senator, hey, this thing is going to be so great for them.
Yep.
And if you're not there to voice the concern and say, no, this is how it's really going to affect me, the guys like me, and all of us back home, they're not going to hear that message.
And the next step of the next step is to make sure that if you do go to the Day on the Hill, you follow up when you get back home with some sort of a thank you note, something to the home office.
We do that automatically.
Absolutely. There you go. So they are representing you. And to me, it's critical. It's a part of the process.
Well, one of the funny things that happens sometimes is you go into your senator's office and the senator's there or a representative's office, and they're like, so where you from? And it's like, well, I'm from Weston, Massachusetts. Oh, what street? My uncle lives there. That's where they're from. Our community.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow. Yeah. There's this personalized touch that gets back to, we're all from the same state. We're from the same county.
Yep.
So it's amazing because sometimes you walk in and you're not even talking about your issues. You're just talking, oh, what do you think of the high school baseball team? They made it to states this year. Or so. There's crazy stuff that happens when you go into the meetings. Sometimes they're a little bland. Sometimes I go into meetings and I know the senators don't like anything that we do in our business. They don't want to hear from us at all. But yet we go in and we know it's sort of on deaf ears. They're not focused on small business. They're focused on other things, but yet we're there. We have
they're still representing you though, right?
Yeah, they're still representing us. And not only are they representing us, they're representing all of my employees, all of my employees' families.
All of your customers. All of your customers that make the choice to use you.
The customers on top of that. They don't want to piss off every customer that now has to walk farther, or now, we can't get insurance and give them proper insurance of $5 million or $1.5 million or whatever people are comfortable with. So you have that, but Day on the Hill is great. And I do want to shout out the PAC committee and the co-chairs of Maya Adrine and Jeff Rose.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Tim Rose is on that also. So thank you guys. And I want to shout out the legislative committee, which is Matt Asselin, Rob Alexander, and I think Jeff Rose also. And I might have missed someone, but I want to shout out both of those committees too, because they put in a ton of work for this and to make it a great event. And they work very closely with Cornerstone and, of course, our staff, Kyle and Sarah and Haley and Brooke. So it's really a great team effort, and I hope everybody can make it. So, and I know I'm stealing a lot of your time here, but I just want to shout out some states that weren't there last year. We had almost 30 states covered.
Wow.
But we didn't have Alaska, Arkansas, Connecticut, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. If you're from any of those states, please come.
Hey, get a list and we'll send it out.
I will forward it to you.
We've got, the two of us have got customers in every one of those states.
All right.
So we can absolutely.
Whether you're a vendor, whether you're in, it would be for us to get close to 35 or 40 states. That means we have 80 senators we get to see.
Yeah.
That means we have all of these. it's just the more people that hear the story from our industry, and we're very focused on the bullet points that we're going to talk about, is it's better.
It makes it real. It makes it real. So if all you're going to do is sit and complain on Facebook about Uber congestion taxes, or you don't have a space at the airport, we got no use for you. Yeah. Participate. This is this is the most inclusive. This is how the process works. When we were kids, it was, remember that? I'm going up on Capitol Hill. This is how a bill's made. You can live this process, and it costs you a ride down and a day and a half of your time and a hotel room.
And it doesn't cost you. You're investing.
You're investing.
Right? This is not a cost.
Yep.
This is a investment in your future and your business. Companies. Absolutely.
Right. So if I want to participate, I'm going to go to limos.org, limo.org, right? Or is there an S on it? Limo.org?
Limo.org.
Limo.org. The event, it starts on Monday. Great camaraderie. It goes Monday for prep. Tuesday is the event. Isn't there some fun Tuesday night?
Well, yeah, there's dinner Tuesday night, and then there's dinner on Monday night too.
There you go.
But you know, and then I'd like you to also include what there's some guy that's doing something on Wednesday right afterwards.
We're not announcing that yet, because there is a chance that guy will be doing it in Savannah instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a discussion, but yeah.
Yeah, to be announced. To be announced.
All right,
in the future.
I guess I was jumping the gun. Sorry to.
Thank you for doing that. But
I ruined the surprise party.
No, not at all. You know that guy's mouth doesn't need any.
Okay.
Doesn't need any amplification.
No, he's got his batteries in all the time. He's got no problem announcing.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so we look forward to seeing you, because both of us are sponsoring Driving Transactions sponsored, and then James grabbed the sponsorship for the podcast.
Yep.
We are blessed to have you. It's always great to have you on. You always create great insight, but it's also a lot of fun to have you on the podcast. We're very happy with the success of the podcast, and it's in no small order to the guests that we have on, because
absolutely,
I don't know how anybody sits and listens to just the two of us, to be quite honest.
You have a great podcast. Congratulations, Ken, James, and thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And please come today on the Hill. Please come today on the Hill. Represent.
And now, Brett, we'll let you get back to, I know you've got a tough rest of the day of work, so we're going to let you get back to that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Take it easy, Brett. Thanks for coming on.
See you later. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX Training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.